you. Thanks, everybody. Well, I might not need introduction to some people, but I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, who is this person? What is he doing here, and what's he going to say? I am, actually, at the moment, thinking that. But no, I'm Alistair McGowan, as you were told. Some of you might recognise me from Leonardo on CBBC. Anybody seen Leonardo? No. If you have, I am Piero de Medici. If you haven't, are any football fans in today? Have you got any football fans? Yes, yes. Number one football fan, clearly there. Who's your team? Who's your team? Okay. Well, before they lost on Saturday to Manchester United, on Sunday, you might have seen me last weekend. I was on Football Focus and I was predicting the results. I got that one wrong. I thought Chelsea were going to win, as I'm sure you did on Sunday, but they didn't. But I was on Football Focus on Match of the Day and giving my predictions and also impersonating some of the football personalities, football pundits, football managers, the likes of Gary Lineker, of course, I'm sure you all know, as the presenter of Match of the Day, the man who puts the pun into the word pundit. I was also impersonating Colin Murray, who some of you may have seen on Match of the Day too. He's the guy who can't pronounce the name of Wolves and constantly refers to them as Wolves. And I also impersonated Rio Ferdinand, who you might have seen on there, and I'm sure you know Rio Ferdinand. He's the man who likes ta. He's the man who likes ta, to do that a lot, basically, isn't it? Anyway, that's who I am. But what am I doing here? I'm here. Well, the people who've organised today's event, and it's more than an assembly for us, it's been an event, a day long of celebration of solar power, wanted someone to come along and talk to you about solar power in an entertaining way. And you got me. They did ask lots of top television comics, I can tell you. Initially, they asked Jimmy Carr. I'm sure you all know Jimmy Carr, yeah? They asked Jimmy Carr to come today, but Jimmy couldn't make it. Apparently, he said to the headmaster, he said, sorry, I can't be there. I've actually got a gig of my own that day. I'm going to be performing in an old people's home. They tell me the average age of the audience is 89. 89. Normally, as a comic, you're worried about dying in front of the audience. Today, he couldn't make it. They hoped that David Mitchell, who I'm sure you know from Peep Show and all sorts of programmes, was going to come and talk to you, but sadly, David Mitchell couldn't make it either because he said, I'm going to be busy performing on every single panel show known to man. They even asked Dara O'Brien, who you may know from Mock the Week and other programs like that. Dara was going to come and talk to you, but Dara going to make it, which is a shame because I'm sure if Dara had been here, he would have said what's to you, most of which he wouldn't have been able to actually understand. And they even asked Liverpudlian comedian John Bishop, who some of you might have seen on various television programmes being very funny and very scouse. But does John Bishop know about solar power? No, he doesn't. Does he know about the environment? Probably not. I, on the other hand, I can tell you, been involved in environmental causes for the last 20 years. 20 years, longer than the time you've been on this earth. I've been talking about the environment and aware of all sorts of issues. And you and I have one massive thing in common. No, I don't fancy a games teacher. Although, no, I don't fancy games. I also have solar power fitted on my roof at home. So we are united, if not by PE, we are united by what we call PV, photovoltaic energy. So I know the significance of what you and your school have done and why it is so important that other schools follow your lead. There are about 500 schools apparently around the country who have solar panels. I'm sure they're not as green as you are in other ways, but they have solar panels. But that means that there are 29,000 schools that don't. So they need to follow your lead. Now, when I was at school, if someone had said to us, when I was at school back in 1979 or something, if they'd said to us, you will be powering your school from the energy created by the sun, we would have laughed and laughed and laughed. Yes, we were pretty easily amused in those days. But even a few years ago, people still didn't believe that solar power was possible. Certainly not in this country, not in Great Britain. If you talk to people about solar power, they'd say, solar power? We don't get enough sun, do we? Eh? Solar power? Not in this country, mate. Solar power? Maybe in Spain, but not in Hinchley Wood. No. But you've proved that it is possible. Now, as I'm sure you know, the photovoltaic cells don't just rely on sunshine, they rely on daylight. And of course, we in Great Britain have just as much daylight as anybody else in the world. In fact, we have the 5th largest potential for creating solar power in Europe. Coming 5th in Europe, we'd all take that on Saturday at the Eurovision Song Contest now, wouldn't we? So why aren't we realizing that potential? Why aren't we using solar power more? Why aren't more schools following your lead? And why is it so important that they do? Well, solar power, as I'm sure you know, is what we call clean energy. Clean energy. Other sources of energy like burning coal and gas in power stations to give us the electricity which power our TVs, the electricity which powers our PCs and our PSs, your PSs, I don't have a PS. They give off huge amounts of carbon dioxide, invisible carbon dioxide. And I'm sure you know, I hope you know, that carbon dioxide is affecting us in a bad way. It's causing the world to warm up. It's formed an invisible layer of what are known as greenhouse gases, which is circling the Earth and causing the Earth to hot up as we burn more and more coal and fuel oil, fossil fuels as they're called, to power more TVs, more PCs, more PSs, more cars, planes, lorries. Everything we use, the energy comes from somewhere, and it means the Earth, as I say, is hotting up. Now, some of you might say, Dale Winton, for instance, might say, well, I think the Earth atmosphere is fantastic. April was great. It was so hot and lovely. I could light in my garden. I didn't have to go to Spain to get a tan like mine. You don't have to go to Spain anymore. But if it is getting hotter here, it's getting hotter everywhere else. If our temperatures go up from 25 degrees on a nice hot summer's day in July to 35 degrees, we can probably cope with that in this country. As long as we've got lots of ice pops in the fridge, we're all right. But imagine in Africa, if their average temperature on a summer's day is 45, if that goes up to 55 degrees, they probably can't cope with that. Imagine that, 55 degrees heat. Their crops wouldn't grow. They wouldn't be able to grow crops. I've lost my place on here, which is not a great idea. It's too hot, you see. This is what happens. Yes, if that happens in Africa, it'll be too hot for them to grow crops. Forest fires will break out, as happened here in the last hot spell a couple of weeks ago, which we'd never seen before. And there won't be enough food or water if those temperatures rise by that much in Africa for them to live off, for their cattle to live off, and even for us, because we import a lot of goods, as you know, beans from Kenya, things like that. They won't grow. Even a small increase in temperature across the world, and scientists are talking about a 3-degree rise, would have very bad effects on the delicate ecosystems around the world. Now, what is an ecosystem? Can anybody explain that to me, actually? I've got it written down here. Anybody want to put forward a theory? How would you describe an ecosystem? Anybody? The Chelsea fan at the back? No, I thought not. All right, I'll tell you. The ecosystem is the delicate balance of life, which we observe all around us, in which one species relies on another species to live. They rely on that life cycle. As David Attenborough would say, if eggs hatch or babies are born at a different time from the norm, then other animals that feed off that creature will suffer and will not survive. Thank you. And if one item in the food chain disappears, then all the other items and creatures in that food chain will suffer. And who's at the top of that food chain? Not Man United, us, man. But solar power, after the creation of the panels, has no emissions. It doesn't contribute to the warming of the planet. This is what's so good about what you've done here. Nothing is being burned here, on Earth at least, to create the energy. That's what's so fantastic about it. And for your school, with your solar power on your roof, from 2 roofs now, the energy generated doesn't have to travel hundreds of miles like it does from a power station to get to here. And when that energy is transported from power stations, 6% of it is lost in just moving the energy. So it's like a train pushing another train. It's a waste of energy. But here you have micro-generation on your roof. That's what we call it, micro-generation. And with micro-generation, energy isn't wasted in moving the energy anywhere else. So if we all embrace this new exciting PV technology like you've done, like your school has done, we would create a world in which old, redundant, dirty fuels would become obsolete. So we could hopefully stop the warming of the planet and preserve life as we know it and observe it in all its beautiful forms all over the world if we do what your school has done. The sun gives us enough energy in just 1 hour, to potentially satisfy the world's energy demands for a year. How about that? If, for example, we covered just 3% of the Sahara Desert with PVs, such as the ones on your school hall, the gym, we could generate all the world's electricity requirements with no emissions, if we did that. Sounds easy. So why don't we do it? Why isn't it happening? Why aren't we using this technology? Well, you are, other schools could. As I said, there's 29,000 schools around Great Britain who aren't doing what you're doing. So, if you've got friends around the country, Facebook them, tweet them, talk to them face to face. Let them know how successful you've been. Let them know what you and your forward-thinking sustainability group, let's have a cheer from the sustainability group members. Yes. Let your friends around the country know what your forward-thinking sustainability group, if you're not part of it, be part of it, what they have done, what your headmaster and your bursar and your games teacher have done, and what your partnership with Solar Century, who you'll hear from in a minute, has achieved. And if you don't know what it's achieved, I'll tell you what it's achieved so far. Let these friends of yours know around the country that you have stopped 29 tons of carbon dioxide from being released into the Earth's atmosphere. 29 tons by installing the solar on your roof here. Let these friends of yours know that your school's electricity bills have gone down by £3,500 in a year. Let them know that because of that, the school is going to give that £3,500 back to you to buy sweets. And, oh no, I got that bit wrong. Sorry, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And even if people do see the need for change, most of them are resistant to it. I'm sure you'll hear people, maybe even your parents' friends, I don't know, anybody saying things like, it's too much effort, isn't it? There's not enough sun. Not that your parents talk like that, of course, you come from Hinchley Wood. They'll say things like, it's too late to do anything about it, isn't it? It's too late, it'll be all right, someone will sort it out. Oh, never did my parents no harm, living off gas and coal. But finally, this country isn't yet embracing solar power because of changes in the system, which mean that so-called large-scale projects, like the one that was finished yesterday on your sports hall, are not being encouraged. Schools and hospitals are great places for solar. Great places for solar. They can reduce their bills, as you've done, freeing up funds for local authorities to buy sweets. Oh no, I got that wrong again. To use elsewhere. And you can even, as you're doing, raise an income for the school, for the hospital. So benefiting the health and future of the world as well as your own financial situation. So please, whatever you do, encourage people to follow your school's example. 20 years ago, I told you I started doing environmental things. 20 years ago, people like me who are interested in the environment were hopeful that the next generation, you, would start to speak out yourself, that you would understand the seriousness of the fact that our resources are disappearing, dwindling. We hoped that people like you would be aware that our planet was hotting up to potentially unsustainable levels. We hoped that the next generation, people like you, would understand that we need to change to maintain life in this beautiful planet of ours and to maintain the lives of endangered species, one of which now is man. So thank you on behalf of all the environmental organizations and all the environmental people that I work with and that I know, and thank you from me for being an active part of the next generation. As Simon Cowell would say, if he was here, look, what can I say? I genuinely think that you've got star quality. You really have, and a very bright future. Well done. Well done. Thank you very much.